South Carolina, about as far away from Washington as one can get. But I still get students from the state of Washington, so. And I've been involved in the program for a long time, so very much look forward to this discussion.
I'm Deshawn Whitaker, former We the People teacher turned assistant principal from Charles County, Maryland.
And I'm Will Holt. I'm actually a We the People alumnus from 1999, a stone age ago, and state championship team that year. And I actually am here in the official capacity from the Nevada Center for Civic Engagement as their district coordinator for the We the People program. So as you can see, I stay with it a bit. But that's what I do in my volunteer time. What I do for work is I'm actually a nonprofit consultant, and I help them with their technology solutions with the company I work for named Blackbaud and the Susan G. Komen Walk for the Cure. Anybody ever heard of that one?
Oh, yeah.
That's my company software I show them nonprofits how to use every day. So that's me.
Please introduce yourself and your teacher.
Hello, my name is Rex Dugan, and my favorite founding father is James Madison for teetering between Federalist and Anti-Federalist to perpetuate the American values.
Hi, my name is Stina Rude, and my favorite founding father is Alexander Hamilton for the key role he played in establishing our national bank.
Hi, I'm Julia Stewart, and my favorite founding father is George Washington for the way in which he selflessly set aside his personal affairs for the benefit of our young country. And on behalf of Unit 2, our coach Gretchen Molfing in Washington State, thank you for judging us today.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we are going to look first at question 1 of Unit 2. It begins with a quote. Mercy Otis Warren argued that the new Constitution was dangerously adapted to the purposes of an immediate aristocratic tyranny. Do you agree with Warren? Why or why not? What features of the Constitution did anti-federalists believe established an aristocratic tyranny? How have citizens and the government responded to perceived attempts to establish aristocratic tyranny? You may begin.
When the government fears the people, there's liberty. When the people fear the government, there's tyranny. Thomas Jefferson.
Warren's claims were false. Our founders set in place a government that could grow with the beliefs of a people, a system equipped to protect against aristocratic tyranny or the abuse by a privileged noble class.
Following their experiences with the British monarchy, common English practices, and the Magna Carta, our founders created a new form of government that upheld essential freedoms and rejected nobility holding all power.
These core beliefs are illustrated throughout the physical body of our Constitution, such as in Article 1, Section 7, where checks and balances between branches are outlined, or in Article 1, Section 2, Clause 1, where it is declared that representatives shall be chosen by the people.
Our founders recognized that a social hierarchy did exist at the founding of our nation, and therefore created a system where the people could alter the government when threats of tyranny arise.
This is depicted by the delegation of power in Article 1, Section 4, Clause 1 to the states, allowing them to determine the times, places, and manner of holding elections.
Acknowledging white landowning men held significant influence, our founders delegated this power away from the federal government, holding that people would have more impact on voting rights at the local level.
In order to protect our liberties, the bold voice of the people is necessary to prevent establishments of aristocratic tyranny.
Anti-federalists argued that the Constitution was founded on aristocratic tyranny or its significant delegations of power to select individuals, who they predicted would come from a stance of nobility.
Brutus 15 lists the grievances regarding several legislative clauses in the Constitution, including the necessary and proper clause of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 18, arguing that the legislative branch would hold absolute and uncontrollable power.
The structure of the Senate was an additional concern for anti-federalists who argued that the legislative power to fill vacancies would again allow a small group to hold access and influence over the diverse country. Even further worries were over the executive leader of the country. Cato IV declared the presidential powers of the Constitution to be vague and inexplicit.
Anti-federalists believe these unclear delegations of power, such as the ability to veto legislation found in Article 1, Section 7, Clause 2, or the lack of term limits on the president, would allow the executive branch to significantly expand its powers to oppress the people, creating a president with the powers of a monarch.
Although not all of these concerns were answered with the ratification of the Constitution, through the advocacy of the people, governmental reform has been achieved and will continue to be as long as the people look to the values at the core of America.
Our Constitution has rebuffed attempts to establish aristocratic tyranny through constitutional amendments, and as citizens uphold the ideals our country was founded upon by exercising civic virtue.
Due to limited enumerated individual rights found in the body of the Constitution, many people believe that the liberties of the people were in danger.
By pushing for a Bill of Rights, people like James Madison ensured that essential freedoms such as speech, fair trials, and religion were not encroached by a tyrannical government.
Through the passage of the 17th Amendment, establishing a direct election of senators, and the 22nd Amendment, restricting presidents to serve no more than 2 terms, these were further reforms that acted against aristocratic tyranny, taking power away from the people and taking power away from the government and returning it to the people.
In our home state of Washington, our system of initiatives and referendums serves as a means by which citizens can directly influence state legislation. By staying educated and exercising their First Amendment rights, the people act as an additional check on the government, further guarding against tyranny.
Through the structure of our government set in place by our founders, aristocratic tyranny has been avoided when the people return to the ideals at the core of our nation and keep their government in check. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's turn to the 17th Amendment, which you indicated was one of the checks against aristocratic tyranny. And you've argued that's effective. How effective is it really? We've got a group of millionaires that are occupying the Senate. So why isn't that an aristocratic tyranny?
What the 17th Amendment does is that it allows the direct election of senators. It doesn't have to go through a higher body of state governments. So when the people are able to elect the senators, they are in control. If they didn't like what the Senate was doing, they have full power to not elect them for another term.
The system set in place by our Constitution in the 17th Amendment leaves there to be no room for aristocratic tyranny, but when other issues such as campaign finance come into play, this is when it becomes an issue.
Can you elaborate on that idea of campaign finance a little further, how it could further aristocratic tyranny?
In the recent cases since United versus FEC, it was held that there was no limit to the amount that corporations can pay in campaign financing. This allows there to be no limit in which a politician can receive money from corporations, giving lots and lots of money to a campaign and making lots of room for corruption.
And this dark money that is often behind some of the representatives of the government is not good because the people don't know what corporations are sending money to the people they are trying to elect.
And not all politicians partake in this idea of dark money. Senator Bernie Sanders, when he was running for president, didn't allow any corporations to give money to his campaign. He only took small amounts from his constituents.
Recently, when we met with our representative in our own district, Kim Schreier, she also held that she did not accept money from such corporations when running for position in office.
So, we talked about it a little bit. You did talk about one of the cases, Citizens United, but how has the judiciary contributed to or defended against the condition of aristocratic tyranny? And how do the courts impact and or safeguard against this condition?
It's important to note that the judicial branch significantly expanded its power with the case of Madison v. Marbury v. Madison. And this case allowed the executive branch to kind of interpret the Constitution in a way where it can make it almost a law. And as we see today, this court expansion of this power has been continued to be seen.
I think it's also important to point out that there's a fine line between aristocratic tyranny and tyranny. When we look at how Supreme Court justices get into office, they aren't just appointed by the president, but they have to be able to make it through the Senate, meaning they go through 2 filters of the people given the 17th Amendment. So if aristocratic tyranny was to really be in effect, they wouldn't have these checks on who can become a Supreme Court justice.
Disagreeing with my colleagues, since there are only 9 justices in our Supreme Court, we walk a fine line of aristocratic tyranny in this court, and it is essential that we put in place measures to protect and uphold this court to ensure that no aristocratic tyranny will arise.
You suggested the initiative and referendum is a good check on aristocratic tyranny. We don't have that at the national level. So should we have it at the national level? Would you support something like that?
Well, the Laboratories of Democracy was originally proposed by Thomas Jefferson, an idea to give the states more freedom. This is currently in effect in our own home state of Washington State, where we see Initiative 502 legalizing marijuana far before that was something that was generally accepted.
Another example of this initiative referendum process, which is found in Article 29 of our state constitution, can be seen with our Initiative 276. This is a Public Records Act, which sets in place that every public record needs to be available for public access so we can see what the government is doing. This is a protective measure against aristocratic tyranny, for it allows citizens to have full transparency with their government and see what is going on.
Going back to your.
I'm sorry, she gets the last word. I'm sure you had something brilliant to say. We'll have to take that up later. Thank you. You did a very good job addressing the issues we've raised. I thought you demonstrated good coverage of the issues and gave us a lot of good examples of how the aristocratic tyranny can be checked. You did an interesting job of drawing the distinction between tyranny and aristocratic tyranny, which is valuable, and it's valuable to define the terms we're debating, and that's what you did a very good job of. Congratulations. Did a great job of representing your state. Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree with my colleague. I wish we had more time to discuss a lot of different issues. I really wanted to hear about your people are the check. I wanted to explore that a bit further as far as voter participation and representation in both legislatures. So we didn't have a lot of time, but I wish we did, and great job today.
I think you guys did really, really great in your opening statement. I don't really have any critiques about that. I think you did really well outlining it and leading us through. You took us to the conclusion, which was great. I think you had really great energy in the follow-up section. However, one critique I may have, when I was asking about the judiciary, I was looking for more than just Marbury v. Madison, and I heard about how the judges can do certain things, but I didn't hear any specific cases to substantiate what you were saying. For instance, you know, we're looking at Terry v. Ohio, Miranda v. Arizona, we're looking at, you know, possibly Dobbs v. Jackson's Women's Health Organization, those kinds of cases, and how they can actually support or refute those things. Also, can the judicial decisions be enforced? Or do we just listen to them and just say, okay, whatever you say goes? Like, where's I know there's a specific quote from somebody that most people might know in this room about where, you know, we say, hey, you know, you made your decision, let's see you enforce it. So those are things to think about when you're looking at the question. Definitely listen to very closely what the question is, and then try to respond to it in that way. But I definitely was really surprised you brought in a lot of Washington stuff. That's awesome. You know, Initiative 502, the public records law that you were talking about there, that was really great as well. So thank you so much for your effort, and we really appreciate hearing you guys today.
Thank you.